All right, we're ready to get kicked off here. Biloxi City Council meeting, June 18th, 2019, 1:30 meeting. I need a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Glavin. Any questions? All in favor?
Table 5.
Table
5L.
5L, please.
Table 5L? Okay. All in favor? Okay, 6-0. Ms. Luce? Yeah, I moved to suspend the rules. We motioned, we second, we voted on it. Now she's getting ready to read in and out what we have to read in and out. So, Ms. Lucy?
To our policy agenda, we're substituting item 4B, ordinance regarding the parking in the small craft harbor. And we are removing on our consent agenda 5L, which is a resolution entering into an agreement with Bench Advertisement, Guff Bench Advertising.
Okay, and we're tabling 5L. Tabling 5L. Okay, I need a motion to, I need a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Motion moved by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Glavin. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carried, 5-0, 6-0. All right, we're going to start off with the mayor's report. Mr. Felcher, mayor's report.
Yeah, we can do the Boy Scouts first.
Oh, Boy Scouts,
Thank
all
you.
right.
But I do welcome everyone here today. It's really exciting. We're not turning the Sanga into a short-term rental, so if anybody's here for that. It is, it's great that you're here. So we're ready with the Boy Scout and the certificates, and then we'll move right along.
Yeah, I was approached about 4 months ago, Cade, by Cade Myers here, who was working on his Eagle Scout project, and his dad mentioned this. How many Eagle Scouts do we have in the room? Very good. Well, Cade had a project he wanted to do for his Eagle Scout project, and that was work on the Biloxi Cemetery. He knew we'd been doing a lot of stuff out there with the new tour and things going on, and so he wanted to do a cleanup project. So he and his troop took on the project of cleaning headstones at the cemetery and did a tremendous job, and really very pleased with the way the project came out. So we wanted to recognize them today and thank them for what they've done for us. First, we're going to recognize Cade Myers, who actually spearheaded this project and hasn't officially gotten his Eagle Scout yet, but his project was approved, so he's well on his way. So come on up, Cade.
Slight correction. I just got my Eagle Scout a few weeks ago. So, thank you.
Just take a picture. And hold for Vincent. And this is Aiden Pickett, who also worked on the project.
Mayor, I'd just like to say, with all these people here today, you should have held this meeting at the Sanger.
Funny guy.
Is that all, Bill? With that? No certificate. Okay, we'd ask Kevin. Kevin Felcher's here. We got a little beautification project and component we want to talk about. Kevin? Okay, sure.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank y'all for having us today. I'm Kevin Felsher, and I'm here today on behalf of the Harrison County Beautification Commission. We're doing a Leaders Against Litter project, and this is a community cleanup day that will be held on July 19th, 2019. It'll span from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And basically how it's going to work is we're asking each leader to pick an area and draft a team to help them clean up. With your team, you'll receive a t-shirt, bags, and gloves to help you in your effort to clean up. And the commission will come by, take some pictures, and support you in your effort to clean up. Louisiana has done this, and they've done it with great success. One thing that we hear a lot at the Beautification Commission is you have such a beautiful coast, but there's so much litter. So what we'd like to do is have the folks like yourselves that are on the forefront to become kind of the face of cleaning that litter up and making our coast cleaner and greener. Each of you have an agenda. If you have any questions, you can call us. You will need to call our director, or you can call me to register, and that's how we're going to know you're on board, and we'll bring you your t-shirt and your supplies, okay? And do you have any questions? Again, that's July the 19th. July the 19th. And again, all the details are on your agenda, but if you do have any questions, I can answer them now, or you can feel free to call me at your leisure. Any questions now? Saturday is pick up at the point. This Saturday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Thank you, Sherry. The commission is going to be holding our second annual pickup at the point, and this is basically where we're having everybody come out. We're going to feed you, give you something to drink, give you a t-shirt, and we'll clean up the whole point area from Point Cadet, kind of where the palace is, all the way down as far as we can get. We're going to pick up some litter, so please come help out. Okay? Thank y'all.
Okay, Kay and Laurie from Main Street, Biloxi, please come up. I think you've got a couple of things. You need Laurie's help with something here.
Okay. Biloxi Main Street recently attended last week the Mississippi Main Street Annual Awards and annual meeting, and Biloxi Main Street received 4 awards, which was the most awards received by a city or community, so we were very excited. And Mayor Gillage was supposed to attend, but he was not able to attend because he had a meeting in Washington. So his lovely wife, Serena, First Lady, attended and accepted his award. So 2 of the awards that we were given was the Main Street Hero Award to Mayor Gillage for his vision and everything that he's doing for the downtown. And the other award was the Outstanding Public Improvement Project, and that was for the Howard Avenue revitalization. So he received 2 of these lovely plaques. So we're very excited, and so Mayor Gillage is just doing a great job, and we're very thrilled that he was honored by Mississippi Main Street. Another award that was given out was the Main Street Trailblazer Award, and it was for a Biloxi Main Street board member that goes above and beyond, that does many things and helps everybody in the city. So it was the Paul Coggin Trailblazer Award, and that went to Bill Raymond. Come on up, Bill Raymond.
So anxious to take a picture. Come on, take a picture.
And we received one more award, and it was for Southport Line's Public Improvement Project. And so we want to congratulate Southport Line for the great public improvement project they did on their building.
Thank you, Kerry. Appreciate it. Thank you to everyone here. Okay. John Prentice from Peltz, Williams, and LaRosa will kind of give us an update on the audit we just completed.
is John Prentice. I'm with the firm Pilts, Williams, LaRosa and Company. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide the audit for the City of Biloxi for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2018. You should have a hard copy of the report in front of you, and you should have also been emailed it last week, a digital copy. We have better news than in a long time to report in the city. We have your report, which starts on page 14. That's our report to the city, our overall report, indicating that we had an unmodified opinion on the City of Biloxi's financial statements. What unmodified means is that it's a clean opinion. There were no findings. We had nothing to report that was out of line in what we examined in our audit of the city. Now, there are a few items I'd like to go over with you within the report, and that starts on page 22. Page 22, that's your government-wide net assets for the City of Biloxi. It contains your governmental activities and your business type activities. The main thing to look at there is your cash balances. Your cash balance in governmental funds was more than $36 million for the fiscal year then ended. Your cash balances that are spendable, not restricted, in the business type activities, that's your port and your sewers, was over $9 million. In addition, your fund balances are on the increase. Your net asset position, it's a positive number. On the next page, page 23, you'll see that your revenues for the year were $66 million, and they exceeded your expenditures in your governmental activities by over $17 million. So that's a positive thing for the city. Now, part of that has to do with the timing of receipt of revenues, some of your grant revenues, contributions, but a lot of it is the positive nature of the governmental activities this year. I will point out on the following page, page 24, your general fund. Your general fund cash, that is just what you have to operate on within the general fund. It does not count your capital projects or your debt service, which are also always funds that have a designated use. Your general fund cash is almost $12 million, and your payables are less than that, so that is a positive thing. And if you look at on the governmental basis of accounting, your fund balance is almost $15 million. Your fund balance is up over the prior year. It has trended upwards, which is a change from the past few years where it's been going down. And then looking at your revenues overall on page 26, your revenues on the fund basis of accounting, your revenues were $59 million, your expenditures were $58 million. So you had $1.5 million in revenues over expenditures, so that's a positive. And of course, that's on the fund basis of accounting, so that's not full accrual, but it's not strictly cash basis either. Now, one of the other items that we look at when determining how you're doing is your budgetary. Your budget is on page 72 and 73. You had budgeted revenues of $59.6 million for the year. That was your final budgeted revenues. Your revenues actually came in at $59.4 million, so you were under by about $200,000, but that's pretty close. However, in your expenditures, where you had budgeted over $62 million, $62.2 million to be exact, your expenditures ended up being $58 million. So that's $4 million less than what you had budgeted. Now, you had budgeted a deficit at the end of the year. You had budgeted expenditures in excess. But your actual figures came out with 1.4 million positive. So after transfers and other items, your net change in fund balance was $1.1 million. So on the cash basis of accounting, your fund balance ended the year at over $18 million, which is trending upwards. So that's positive. Final area that we look at, it starts on page 114 and 115. That's your compliance with federal funds. You were expended $30 million in federal grant funds during the year. We take those funds, we look at them, and we examine them hard. And we look for compliance with laws. We look at your internal controls related to them, and we found nothing lacking. We had no findings regarding your federal expenditures. We found that everything that we looked at was fair and appropriate. At this time, I'd entertain any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Lawrence, you have any questions?
Yeah, last year, put in the form that we had, as the city was broke down, I didn't see where y'all didn't change that from the beginning, where the city council not connected to anybody. That's not true in the city of Biloxi. City council is connected a lot of projects, so I mean, it's the same one, y'all put the same thing back in there. Told you last year, nobody changed it. The setup, the city setup,
The organizational chart.
it's in the beginning of the book.
That is in the management section, and we are happy to modify that if you change it. Well,
What are you suggesting, George?
City council don't sit by itself. City council part of the city. These are people, so we deal with all the division, directors. You know, you can't sit it, all you do is set it aside. I tell you before, that is not the way the city works. Yeah, so anyway, just. What you contribute to $1.5 million increase in the money? What was the main reason, the 1.5?
I think it's a reduction in expenditures. The expenditures were less than budgeted.
So did we over project, or we just didn't spend as much money?
For
Don't
day-to-day
smile.
operations, I would like to say that
In business,
you
Yeah,
didn't
I know.
spend as much as you want.
in business, that's called year-to-date gain or loss. Is that not right? That's what business looks like.
Right.
No matter what you budget, it's a guess.
Exactly.
Okay, but the bottom line increased by that difference.
Right.
It absolutely did.
And then in the, I noticed, say again? Yeah. Then the gaming, I know it's a sport book, it was up over 19 million, we put in 19 million, it was over 19 million, so we did a good job with the sports book. When they had that on, that added a lot, I don't know what the percentage
You
was.
only had about 2 months of that in there.
Yeah, but it added a lot of money. You had to write 2 months.
Yeah. 2 months.
Yeah, the
were always
NFL
the
months.
biggest.
So, and you can imagine what's gonna make at the end of the year. And the cash money we have in the bank, what is that, 43 million? Is that cash, or is that, what else is that?
In the general fund, you've got about 12 million. Overall, between the various accounts, you've got about 47 million, but most of that is committed to debt service.
It's
and
dedicated.
Capital projects. Dedicated. You can't touch it. General fund, you've got about 12 million.
And the other problem we always have, what about the bond money? Are we still have
Separate.
enough to pay all the bonds? There's no problem? Are we buying too many bonds? Or how we handling the bond itself?
You've got enough to meet your debt obligations as they stand.
I know we have enough, but I said, are we stretching it too far?
That's a matter of opinion.
Yeah. So I was just,
Some
well,
people are
that's,
comfortable with
we
living
got you
with
here.
lots of debt, and some people are not.
You're supposed to be the expert, you're giving us opinion, so, I mean,
I can give you
we
an
didn't hire
opinion
you,
on what
you're just
is
walking down the
Hey,
street.
George.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Ms. Newman? None? Mr. Deming? Dr. Tisdale?
Just one question. I know that we had looked at and revised the water rates a number of years ago, and that needed to be done. It was about 3 years ago, and I think the latest increase is the last increase. Or do we have enough? Coming up. Right. And so nobody panics out there. That's for the big water users. It's not for most of the population. And I guess my question is that has pretty much stabilized
Yes, I believe so.
water
If you
sewer,
look
because
over
that
at
was-
Page 29, and I'm sure you've looked at this and can see it. Our revenues in water and sewer were 16.6 million, and your operating expenses, that's your actual operating, this is on accrual basis accounting, so we're matching revenues and expenditures. Your expenditures were 15.5 million, so you're 1.1 million, 1.2 million to the good.
Right, and that sounds great, but also, we still have a lot of work to do and projects to do and water and sewer and that kind of stuff in some areas of the city, so that's why it's good to have a little surplus so
we're
that
building
we
that
can
surplus.
manage some of these projects and fund them. So that's terrific. That's good news, John. Thank you so much. That's really all
And
I,
that includes depreciation in there, so that's a
Right.
non-cash item.
right, okay. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tisdale. Mr. Glavine?
John, is there going to be an opportunity to improve our bond rating based on our financial condition? What is your opinion?
That's beyond my expertise.
Okay, but this doesn't hurt,
There's nothing in here that should hurt your bond rating.
okay.
You gotta keep an eye on your legal debt market.
And currently, thank you, currently, Mike, where are we at? A minus, or where are we at on our?
Double A minus.
Double A minus?
Very good, one of the
Yeah.
best in the state.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barrett? Okay, and I have nothing else. It's probably one of the best reports I've heard in a while, so thank you. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Another plus.
And now for the main event. It gives me great pleasure to invite a lady who knows more about the nature and the existence and the purpose and the value of our Sanger Theater. So it's my pleasure to ask Ms. Wingelott to come up and as part of the, would you rather have this or?
Come on, Harry, go this way.
Amen.
Mayor Gillich and all the city council, I appreciate this so much. I'm touched, to tell you the truth. All I wanted was just a conversation with you. And it's been wonderful to be here and see all these people coming forth and interested in what we're going to say and do. I don't have a speech, but I'd like to make a couple of things that I would like to say appreciation first to Jane Shambra, who did the pictorial display up here. And it's one that really is special. It goes back in history and brings us up to almost the current time. The middle piece was done by the Coast Chronicles, was it? Newspaper, magazine, I guess it was. Anyway, it was in the mayor's office, so we took it. I'll take it home afterward. But I do want to tell you about my love for the singer and my history with it. When I came to Biloxi in 1945, I came here to go into nurses training in the hospital on the beach. Most of the people in this room don't know about that hospital. George, were you born there?
No. I came right after Jesus.
Well, the Sisters of St. Francis ran that hospital. It was accredited. It was one of three in the state accredited. And I wanted to come here to go into training, and they accepted me. Little did I know how much Biloxi was going to mean to me. Little did I know what all the things in Biloxi were going to mean. The history. I used to walk around the lighthouse with my friends on the rocks. At that time, they just had the rocks around. But the first week I was here, I said, I'd like to go to a movie. And they said, well, we'll go to the Sanger. I said, where's the Sanger? I had no idea. So one of the ladies who lived here said, well, haven't you been to the Sanger? I said, no, I don't even know where it is. So we arranged to go. I don't remember what we saw, but it was a wonderful evening because I saw a theater I had never seen before. The beauty It was the opulence. I'd never been in that kind of a theater before in Jackson, Mississippi. Can you believe that? And I saw a theater that the community loved. It was historic. It's on the National Historic Register. I guess most of you know that. So nothing can happen to it that will ever take it away from us. And that evening, I looked at that theater all over. Well, it still had that low ceiling. ABC Theaters owned it. Well, in 1975, a fire happened in the theater. And that's when they offered it to the city for $10. Mayor Jerry O'Keefe certainly took a month on that. And we were getting ready for the country's bicentennial, and so he said, this is an opportunity. That is historic, and they wanted the historic buildings ready so they could show them off. Well, of course, that building had been put through fire and water and all that. So he gave Julia Geist the house down the way and gave me the theater. Well, I thought I had the best of all things in the world. When I walked in, he gave me the key to go down there alone. Would you believe that? I went in, the popcorn machines in the middle of the floor. I walked in, there was only one light showing the whole theater, and it was dark and ugly and wet, and the ceiling was falling in. And then I realized there's another ceiling above that low ceiling. I'd never known that. So we began to see a whole new transposition. And we didn't have a lot of people to work with this one. I'd like to say something about Mr. Jerry Bernine, who was a carpenter at the city at the time, Paul Lammy, who was an electrician, and I'm sure there were others, but Mr. Wilton Starks was one of the volunteers for us, and there were many, many others that helped, but we didn't have many people that would come forward. So I went out to Keesler and spoke with the general, and he spoke to the all-male course out there. The director of that course happened to be a very fine pipe organist, and he offered to help get it clean if they would come help him, and many of them brought their wives, actually with mops and brooms and rags and dirty, dirty, dirty cleaning. Don't see that often in a community. They took a part in belonging to our singer. And when I watched this, I knew we were coming back. And we had to be ready for the bicentennial, which was 1976. In the meantime, the Catholic Church established the Biloxi Diocese, 15 counties for South Mississippi. Well, they were going to have a signing of the documents by the papal ordinance over the church. But where we're going to have the rest of the mass, because it was filled with priests and cardinals and religious. We needed a place for the mass. So I was told they would do it at the Sanger. Can you imagine what that would take? The chandelier had been taken down, stolen. Didn't know where the chandelier was. So I asked Paul if he would just keep looking for the chandelier. And he found it in a little house behind the water department. It had been walked on and stepped on, but the bottom had been taken by someone for their home, apparently. And I hope they enjoyed it. But he picked up all the pieces, the prisms and the little odds and ends, and took it out to his place across the bay. I went out and met him. All we had were just pieces and pieces and pieces. And I said, do you think this could be put back together and electricity gate? I do believe that. He said, if you can get enough people to volunteer to do this. So I went to Notre Dame School, where they had a band and a lot of volunteers with the band, their parents. And they accepted the project. Father Russell was the principal at that time. Those people worked at tables. They set that whole thing out, prism by prism by prism, circle by circle by circle, and they put it back together. A cousin of mine in New Orleans with Lighting Incorporated took the picture that Mr. John Collins gave me of the chandelier. Mr. John was so good, he had all the plans and gave a whole box of everything, the files he had on the singer, which he carried with him from original. Apparently, the architect Mr. Benjamin, architect, gave them to him to keep for posterity. Well, he handed them over to me for posterity. So I put them up in the little office up in the second level of the theater, and we could refer to them for anything we needed. I sent the picture of the chandelier over to New Orleans, and my cousin sent it to Austria, where they had such wonderful glass makers and chandelier makers, and they matched the bottom of that chandelier exactly. Two ladies volunteered to pay for it anonymously. They were elderly ladies, because you didn't know where you would get the money for all these things. They're very expensive. So I went to them in the home and just told them we were in need of getting the chandelier finished, and they said, "We'll do it." And they did. So that was hung. We had to get the cyclorama done, the stage curtains done, and the stage extended out to accommodate the mass and performances that would be there later. Again, what are we going to do? So we used the carpenter we had, the electrician we had, and some volunteers from Keesler. Honestly, it was a work of art and a work of love, and directed by the good Lord above, I do believe. And it was getting close to the time of the diocesan to have the mass and the signing of the papers. We weren't quite ready. We didn't have the chandelier hung yet. It wasn't quite ready. There were a few other things not quite ready. But there was a tremendous amount of volunteer effort put forward when the word got out that we needed them. About a week before the diocese mass, Paul called me, Paul Lammy, the electrician. He said, "Gwen, come down to the theater. I want to show you something." I walked in and the chandelier was lit up. Not only was it lit up, he had it rigged so it would go up and down just like it had when he was a little boy and used to have. He cleaned it when he was a teenager, so he was thrilled to get it back up there. So that was quite a story to tell some of the bishops from. They were there. I said, "I want you to take a look at that chandelier. That's a miracle hanging." And when they would walk into this theater, they'd look up and smile. We were on national TV because this was a special, special time. Bishop Joseph Lawson Howes was the first black ordinary bishop in the United States. So naturally, it was a national event that was very important and very well watched. So Monsignor Bambrick was in charge of Nativity at the time, and had asked me if I would work with him on it, and of course I was happy to do it. And called in some more volunteers to do invitations and to get everything done that had to be done, every seat numbered, by name, by number, at the church, at the theater. Everybody was placed exactly where they should be. We didn't have any seats left over, so I just stood in the back. It was a tremendous experience for me as a former Baptist who was a convert to the Catholic faith, to see and to worship at this glorious occasion. It was absolutely wonderful for all the people there. Well, we did have that, and then the bicentennial. So we had a great deal of celebration there for the bicentennial, all of which I won't go into. But I do want to just tell you how grateful I am for the people in Biloxi who have supported the singer, who continue to support the singer, and we will have it back, I think, very soon in a beautiful and grand shape as it was. I know we must have the money somewhere. I know that I had signed a letter over a year ago for the Mississippi Arts Commission, and they gave us $100,000. I think we had $40,000 from the Friends of the Singer still in the People's Bank when we had shut up the doors. So federal money, I think, must be available. I don't go into all those things, bids and what have you, but I want you to look at the handout Jane Shambler did. It is really one of the work of arts that we have. Didn't we have a handout at the door for that? I think we did. She says here, and I would like to read a little bit of it. The gem of the Gulf Coast, and that is exactly what it was called when it was built. Much like the Biloxi Lighthouse, the Sanger Theater is certainly a symbol of this city's resilience. When it opened in January of 1929, there were no predictions as to the multitude of magnificent events and the diverse events that that theater would host. This structure stood tall over the tragedies of time, including wars, the stock market, the Great Depression, a fire, and other things. Just think how old it is. That theater was built the year I was born. Can you believe how much I love that theater?
You look way better than the singer does right now.
Anyway, the singer has stood proud, and it keeps giving us the same feeling that we had the first time we walked into it. It has a specialness about it. When you walk into that theater, it's no other place like it. When the symphony was there, they could perform at their very best. The community concerts adored moving there from the high school. For the longest, we only had the high school for performances. But now there were dance reviews, ballets, operas, special people. And we had those special people come and do benefits for it. The first one was Pete Fountain. You know how many fountains we've got in this area? And they called it. I didn't have that close. And he gave a wonderful benefit for us. We had a bowl out front to pour money into. We didn't ask for any amount. We had a lot of money that night. And Sam LaRosa was our treasurer. And Sam and I would go up in the back room and count all the money when it was all over. And then he would go to the bank and deposit it. I called Sam. He can't be here today. They're on their way to a hospital with their son. And I asked your prayers for their son, who has cancer. But he said to tell all of you, we put the money where it needed to be. And he and I were so anxious to count the money every time, we couldn't wait. And a group came in and did a show called Hello Dolly. How many of you love that? And we didn't know we couldn't have people standing around the wall. It was standing room only that night. Lots of money in 2 bowls that night. So we went in the back to count it. And we had a knock on the door, and they wanted half the money. We told them that was not our arrangement. So they weren't happy, but we kept the money. But you know how I love that theater. I always have. As we did the bicentennial, we did a lot of patriotic things in there. We did things that would bring it up to date. And Jane has given a wonderful display. I have it in here, but she had somewhere there papers for everybody. And I thank Lucy for that, because she copied a lot of copy for us. Thank you, Lucy. let's see, I want to read a couple more things from her. It was cost only $200,000 when it was built. Think of that, only $200,000. And designed by architect Roy Benjamin. There were 120 seats on the first floor and 480 seats in the balcony. Well, when we made the changes to bring the stage out further, we had to take some seats out. The organ had been in an organ pit, which we don't have the organ. Our doctor in Mobile bought it before we could get in there, bought it from ABC Theaters. So we rented organs from Mississippi Music to have benefit organs in there, which Jack Moman did. He was out of key, so he was a major. He now is the official organist for the Fox Theater in St. Louis. And he also played at Radio City Music Hall. But he came down in the fall. He called me and said, we're coming down for reunion of the men's choir. I'm bringing an organ. One of the companies up here is lending it, and we're going to have a reunion at the Yacht Club. And they wanted me to come. Well, I couldn't come because of other things at that time. But they came out to visit me. He wanted to give me a check for $1,000 for the Friends of the Singer. I said, well, I can't take that. You have to give that to the mayor, who was so thrilled to get it, too.
He'd have took it.
And we had such good publicity on it.
He'll take anything.
I'll tell you, everything was taken care of so well. The lights were on in the theater, the marquee was on. He was absolutely bowled over. And of course, the two of you, three of you, whoever, gave him the glad Southern hospitality welcome that you could. He wants to come back for the grand opening, and I assured him he would be welcome. Is that right? All right. A lot of you will remember Jack. He gave 3 performances, and we had bowls out front, or gave him some more money. We didn't charge for anything. But as we moved along and got a little more, I guess, professional, we began to charge for those things that came in. Of course, the symphony had to charge. The community concerts did. They had memberships. The shows that would come through had a contract. So there was tickets on those. I've talked long enough, but maybe I can tell you again, please continue your love for this theater and continue to keep it going in our community. We need it. We need it now. We need it quickly because the fall season is beginning for the symphony, for the community concerts, and for many other things. So please do get on the ball.
Suitable for the World Wide Web here. All right, very good. You heard that before?
Whatever.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn.
Hey,
Listen, there'll be a lot of opportunity during public comments to make additional comments, but I'd like to ask Dale, get right to the point with regards to some very specifics, but it is so important, it has so much value, present value and future value. Dale Greenwell, the noted historian, writer, come on in, please, and say just a few comments.
I don't think I need this. Can y'all hear me? Oh, okay. All right. Gwen, you didn't leave anything out for me to say. Anyway, Gwen and I, through historic societies over the years, we talked about and tried to figure out what roads to take. When right over here, about 200 feet at the Bancorp South, back in the silent movie period, that was the premier place in Mississippi. Now, if you go down Howard Avenue and look at Bancorp South and see the columns and all that, that goes back to around 1920. I'm sorry, in the early 1900s. All right, when the Paramount Theaters came out with the talkies, the silent movies died immediately. Biloxi needed a place to show movies. People with money. At that time, Biloxi was one of the wealthiest towns along the Gulf of Mexico, and even in the South, because of the seafood industry. And the seafood industry was putting a lot of money into entertainment. A lot of those people, the Ducates, the Garnflows, and all those people were forking a lot of money into improving Biloxi, putting up hotels, nightclubs, restaurants, anything that would draw people. At the same time that the Ducate Theater was there, the first talkies came in and were shown on screens outside. Not there, but in different places in Biloxi, D'Iberville, what is now Gulfport, and so forth. But in 1929, as Gwen mentioned, the Sanger was completed. Right at 1,500 seats, including the balconies. And the balconies were designed, if y'all remember, around the walls up. If the screen was there and you were in the back, you had those private seatings for the mayor and other people, the prominent people of the coast. They're still there, right? The seats, the box seats. I haven't been in there in a long time. But anyway, when the theater was built, it was the showplace of the South, not just the Gulf Coast. This made papers all over the South. If you go into Biloxi, go to the Sanger Theater. The movies, they revolutionized entertainment on the coast at the Sanger. I was on the stage a few times behaving badly, not entertaining. Anyway, Gwen covered everything else. There's nothing else for me to say, but except this. It is very important that that place be saved. We've been talking about it in the historic societies and around town for 70 years. We talk about it. Oh, we're going to save the Sanger. We're going to do this with the Sanger and all that. Everybody that's going through Biloxi in business or politics or whatever has supported the restoration of the Sanger, the Cathedral of the South, the Castle of the South. It had a reputation in our time as being the best place in Mississippi, and I hope to Christ the city can get it straight.
Thank you, Doug. 3 minutes. Catherine Blessing will come up and just really briefly talk about the cultural and the coast-wide attraction. We got many folks from all across the coast and how valuable it is for the future of our culture. You got the money? That's good. All right. This is to be paid to the council? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. My name is Catherine Blessing, and I propose that the council do 3 things before it makes its final decision on what to do with the Sanger Theater, originally known in 1929 as a gem of the Gulf Coast. Number 1, investigate. Number 2, involve. Number 3, invite. Number 1, investigate the many federal and state tax credits that exist, including federal historic preservation tax credit incentives, B, historic tax credits, C, historic theater tax credits, D, rehabilitation facade tax credit, and even the new market tax credits if applicable. The Federal Historic Preservation Tax Incentives Program tax credits are successful, powerful, and cost-effective community revitalization programs. They have leveraged over $96 billion in private investments to preserve 44,341 historic properties since 1976. The National Park Service and the IRS administer the program in partnership with state historic preservation offices. We owe it to ourselves to investigate these programs, as they represent free money to preserve Sanger Theater. Number 2, involve the active arts community of the Mississippi Gulf Coast to help champion the restoration. The council works hard and has many things to do on behalf of the citizens. We have and we are a passionate arts community that can help. Volunteer committees and nonprofits can help fundraise research and even work on the project. 3, invite local and national companies on the Gulf Coast to be a part of the fundraising efforts and sponsorship opportunities that will be needed. There's a lot of potential for corporate fundraising that could be very lucrative for the restoration and profitability for the companies in terms of goodwill and advertising. It is good business for corporations to get behind a local effort to promote the arts and cultural space that itself can be restored to its own work of art. We have many fantastic modern performances, venues, theaters, and sound stages in Biloxi, thanks to the casinos who have invested here and given our friends and neighbors their jobs and livelihood. What cannot be replaced is a historical gem once it's gone. As a point of comparison, the New Orleans Sanger Theater, destroyed by Katrina, was restored because of the National Rehabilitation Tax Credit Project, which authentically restored this historical 1927 movie palace and transformed it into a first-class, state-of-the-art performing arts theater. Mobile Sanger Theater was purchased by the City of Mobile from the University of South Alabama in 1999, and a nonprofit organization called the Center for Living Arts restored and now runs it. The debate about restoring the Biloxi Sanger is a serious one, and I urge the council to consider that you do not have to do it all on your own. Investigate, involve, and invite more resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Edmund.
Good evening. Edmund Boudreau, I'm a local historian. Most folks who read the Biloxi Divo Press, they'll be from that. The thing I want to bring to you is, before Katrina, we had over 160 historical landmarks in Biloxi. After Katrina, over 60 was destroyed. This was an act of nature, of Mother Nature, that did destroy it. But what we have to realize is that an act of man shouldn't be what brings one of these structures down. We have an opportunity to save this historic structure. Behind me is kind of like the choir of people who want to see this structure saved. Each one of them is a living historian. They can't tell you world history. They may not be able to tell you Mississippi history or United States history, but they can tell you a story that is their own history, which includes the Sanger. There's an old Biloxi Indian legend that says that a elderly woman was the most wisest woman of the tribe, and that she was appointed to that position because of her knowledge. And each one that was added to the council would try to up her one. Well, one young wise man that was added to this council decided he would outsmart her. So he took a bird in his hand and he came to her and he said, "Is the bird in my hand alive or dead?" He knew if she said it was alive, he could crush it and show her the dead bird. And she looked at him and she said, "It's in your hands. And I tell you, the Sanger is in your hands."
Thank you, Mayor. All right, I think we got our marching orders. Departmental reports, Oscar in the end? Okay, we put them off the next, oh, she's coming on.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Matranga, project manager for Oscar Renda Contract, and we got a lot going on, putting down a lot of asphalt, putting down a lot of storm drain structures, landscaping. Any questions?
Any questions from the council?
No.
No questions? Okay, as always, I have a couple. Yeah, we appreciate you coming.
We do just have a video too, so y'all can go online, look at the video.
Well, did I forget my question? Landscaping, that's the only thing. Just want you to, there are a lot of people asking about landscaping, so if you can just attend to that close
Yes,
as
sir.
possible. And of course, the grass cutting. That's all I have.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, I'm gonna move on to the council report. Mr. Lawrence?
I don't have a report, I'm gonna make a statement. I'm glad all y'all here, because the Sanger needs you out. They need to bring back the Friends of the Sanger. They need to follow Gwen Gillott Lee. We was blessed in 1945 that she came to Biloxi. Not only she did the Sanger, she did Tricentennial Park, she did a lot of things involved with the city of Biloxi. She has the heart, the desire, and dedication. All you members need to stand up behind her. She stood up. Y'all need to stand up behind her and do what needs to be done. There is a nonprofit, the Main Street Board, so you can run all these grants through the Main Street. We got the nonprofit in place. The money's out there. It's easy for a nonprofit like Main Street to get the money better than the city. We already discussed that with the mayor, so that's an opportunity. Don't leave the room and do nothing. I got two types of people in the world, thinkers and doers. Thinkers keep thinking about doing something, doers go out and get it done. So there's an opportunity for y'all to stand up for yourself. Y'all want to sing? You want to help the city of Biloxi? It's here to be done. So everybody needs to stand up and help. You need the wisdom of Miss Glott, use her wisdom. Don't make her work anymore. She did her job for 30-something years. It's time for us to stand up and do these things. I met with the mayor, talked to him about some of the things they could do, meet with the CBs, let them secure the walls and the roof. They can't do the fancy stuff, but there's stuff they could do to save the city and that organization a lot of money. You can get Keesler involved, like Mr. Winglass said before. They'll send people to do a lot of work. They'll volunteer a lot. People's out there willing to help us. We need to ask for them, ask them to do that. I told him about the Friends of the Sanger. He said his wife Serena is going to talk to them, sit down with them, get that done. You use the wisdom of Miss Glott to get this stuff done, but you all have to stand up to do it. She stood up, so let's stand up for her.
Thank you, George. Ms. Newman?
Just want to state I am for saving the Sanger, and just like with Hiller Park, we had to bring life back to it. I made Friends of Hiller Park, and that's exactly what we did, and that's what we need to do with Sanger.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. Mr. Deming?
First and foremost, we had a wonderful ward meeting. Miss Bella, I hope your foot's okay. I know you couldn't make it, We did talk a lot about Parks and Recs issues. If you would remind me to give you an update after the meeting, discuss some issues that some of the board members have. And I have not seen any of the articles or broadcasts, but I've been receiving a bunch of phone calls. And I'm sure it has to do with comments that were made in a council meeting. So I want to assure you that there's no one on this board that doesn't believe in the value of the Sanger being part of our community. The only thing is we are fiduciaries of the city, and we have to make sure that we use the money that the city has to maintain our obligations as well as our amenities. And so, that being said, it's not our intent to not preserve the Sanger or its value to our community. It's to make sure that we also adhere to those other obligations and use that money wisely, find other sources. And some of that stuff that Ms. Blessy talked about is exactly what we were talking about doing. We need to make sure that we get every dollar out there to preserve our tax dollars for the obligations that the city does have, while doing everything we can to preserve the jewel of the South. So if anyone has any questions or concerns with any of the comments that I made, I'd love to take the opportunity to explain them to you in person. Please give me a call or grab me after the meeting. And thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Tisdale.
Yeah, every once in a while, well, sometimes frequently, people will tell me they didn't like how I voted on something. And I'll look them in the eye and I remind them, if you want to tell me your opinion and how I should vote, you should tell me when. Before I vote. Don't tell me after I vote. It's a pleasure to see all of you out here today, particularly on this subject. It makes a difference when the council sees the support out here. And what you're telling me, and I suspect others as well, is how we should consider voting before we vote on this. So thank you for that. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Tisdale. Mr. Glavin.
Very easy for me. You know, it's not my ward, but the Sanger's in my heart, and it's in y'all's hearts, and you can definitely feel it. And I think it transcends beyond the brick and mortar and stone of that building, and we got to find a way. I mean, we represent the citizens of Biloxi, and I think overwhelmingly to erase the Sanger would be a big mistake. We got to find a way to revitalize it like other cities have. It is the gem of Biloxi, and we're going to find a way. I guarantee you we're going to find a way. So I'm all in with this. I've never wavered on that. And all of our icons, and Edmund put it very clearly, we're losing some of those historic landmarks, and they dwindle, and it becomes less and less, and all we have is either a picture or a monument. We need to preserve that history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glavin. Mr. Barrett.
Yes, Mike's out the room. Huh? So I had a question for him, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll get with him afterwards, and we'll cover it then. Thanks to all you guys for coming. And 2 weeks ago, whenever we took the vote on the Sanger or tabled it, we tabled it for 60 days, and our response was for us to pursue outside funding instead of using the grant money or the bond money that we took out. Last year, we took out a $14 million bond, and the proposal that's on the table, and I don't think at the end of the day that anyone, the end game, let's tear the Sanger down. However, we took a $14 million bond out to make improvements in our city. If the proposal that's on the table is for $2.1 million of that $14 million to go towards the Sanger, and that's 15% approximately of that money going just to the Sanger. In front of me, just in my ward, and there's 7 wards, I have $3.5 million worth of just paving that needs to be done. Just paving. We have a chart here where we hired a company to evaluate roads, and I have over 20 roads that are in the worst condition on this chart that they can possibly be in the rating from best to worst. And I'm not saying let's tear the Singer down. I'm saying we need to find alternative ways to finance this instead of out of this bond. We took this bond out as a council to make the improvements in our city that needed to be done for infrastructure. And at the end of the day, if we can find the grants and even a private company that we can maybe come in and do some of the improvements and have an operating agreement with them or something of that nature, we're all for that. We're not saying let's tear the Singer down. We're saying, and this is what we have a lobbyist that we pay $10,000 a month. We said, get that lobbyist to go out and try to find some financing for this, some grants. There's, and pretty much what we said last week as a whole as a council is what Ms. Blessy said in this letter that we got here that she read to us. Let's go out, and there are other alternatives and there are other funding methods that we can get outside of this bond. I've said it from day one when we took the bond out that I will not support projects like this out of the bond. However, if we can find alternative ways to fund this, I think that's great. I think it's another great asset for our city. And so we appreciate y'all coming here, and we have heard you, and we will pursue those things, and we ask for you to help us as well. A lot of you guys are tied to those foundations and those societies that may have funding sources, and they might not be able to give us the whole 2.1 that we're asking to secure this building. However, they may give us $50,000, and every little bit helps, which will make it easier for us to meet in the middle. So I saw that Mike came back in the room, and I had a question real quick, Mike, about I know that where are we at on our sidewalk deal? Are we doing any bids on that, or?
The Will Market sidewalk project is an MDOT project.
Okay.
80/20 funded, so we're in that slow, painful walk through the MDOT process.
Okay, so
It's a fiscal year 2020 money, which means we'll have the money in the fall.
Okay.
And it'll take us that long to get through that process.
okay, all right. That's all
But
my
it's
question.
on target, just moving slowly through that process. When we take these 80/20 matches, we have to dance their dance.
Okay, all right. That's all I needed. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have final comments. First of all, thank you, guys. I was inspired by Ms. Galat and what she was saying. The Singer Theater is in my ward, and the thing I look at is, what are the most iconic things that we have in Biloxi? That's our lighthouse and the Singer Theater. The Singer Theater is a treasure, and we as a city council, we should be the lead in dealing with something like that. We should take the lead in restoring it. I know we should pursue outside fundings, different things like that, but it's up to us. We're the leaders, and we're on the front lines. And so I'm in support of doing it. Matter of fact, as quick as we can get the resolution back, I'm pushing to go ahead and start it. Because if you let a building sit, it will go down. It will definitely go down. So we have to push to get that back. This week I'm going to be having a ward meeting on Thursday, so alert the directors. And later on, I would like to, later on this week, get with you, Mayor, the CAO. I talked with Mr. Creel about some potential interest in the area, and I gave Mike Leonard some brochures and pamphlets, some development, and we need to sit down and kind of talk with that. Okay, and that concludes my report. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to the public agenda. We have a total of 45 minutes, 3 minutes per person. It will be strictly enforced. Is there anyone on my left would like to come up? Yes, ma'am. Come on up, and I'm going to go back and forth. Please sign in and state your name and address for the record.
Arlene Kanan, 135 Benackie Avenue, Biloxi. I agree with what you have said, Councilman Gines, about it needs to be started, it needs to be fast. as quick as possible because it is deteriorating very badly every day that we're sitting in here. And I want to say that I disagree with what Councilman Lawrence has said about CBs and everybody like that doing the work. That's nice to get somebody that would volunteer and do the work, but this is a special type of building, and we need to be very careful that it's done exactly correct, because if we don't, it's going to be back in 10 years the same way that it is now or worse. And that's what's happened in the past. And that's what's happened in the past is, and the other councils, I can't blame them, because if you have to remember, when the fire happened, it was only 5 years after Hurricane Camille. And what happened there is we just did Band-Aids. We didn't have the money to do the work. So we need to follow what MDAH wants, get the right contractors to do the right work, especially on the outside, sealing the bricks, and the tower, the fly tower, all that needs to be done correctly. Now, maybe when you get inside, then you can ask for maybe somebody like the CBs to do that kind of work. But on the outside, it's critical. But I want to say you get what you pay for. I know your parents have probably told you that, or you've heard that before. But we can't be cheap on this. But there was an article in the paper today, I don't know if y'all saw it. This was somebody that's from Boston that said there are too few cultural events taking place in Biloxi these days, and perhaps the addition of an inviting location will help draw attendance to the planned restaurants and stores in the downtown area. And it definitely would be an attraction because it is the gem of the Gulf Coast. And it's just not Biloxi that uses that. You've seen school buses and you see operas and everything else, and people flock to it. They're hungry for that type of event, and we need to hurry up and restore that so we can bring it back to Biloxi again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Okay, I'm going to alternate. Anyone to my right? Come on, come on. I need you to speak into the mic so we can pick you up on the sound system.
My name is Rafe O'Neill, Biloxi boy. I grew up in the Sanger. My grandmother worked in the Sanger until it closed as a movie house. I closed the Sanger as the technical director for the last show there. So I know probably as much about that building as anyone in this room, been in every inch of it. Respectfully, I would like to say, Mr. Lawrence, you looked at the crowd and you said you need to get behind this. Well, I would like a show of hands in this crowd. We have Sanger soldiers out here that have been trying for several years to help raise funds for the Sanger, and we've gotten no support from the Friends of the Sanger or the city on this. I would like a show of hands, please. Everybody in this room should stand up. We have tried, sir. So we need the city to work with us because we've got people all over the Gulf Coast that are willing to. How many people have volunteered their time for fundraising for the Sanger in the last 15 years? So you've got Sanger soldiers. You need to tell us what to do and back us up, and we'll do whatever you need us to do, sir. That's where I'm coming from. You've got the support of the community. We can't lose this thing. We've lost so much, y'all. The Gulf Coast, how many buildings have we lost in Katrina? This can be done. Look to our neighbors in Mobile. Perhaps you should visit the Mary C. in Ocean Springs and see what we did to that 90-year-old theater in the last 5 years. It is now running at about 85% utilization for the city of Ocean Springs, and it's the same age as our Sanger in Biloxi. We could do it there, we can do it here. And that's all I really would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to my left. Anyone on my left? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Debbie Battier. I own an interior design and furniture business in Biloxi. I'm born and raised in Biloxi, and my family has been heavily invested in downtown Biloxi my entire life, back into the 40s. As an interior designer and someone who's participated in a lot of restoration, renovations of buildings, old and new, I can tell you that this is not a job that you can hire volunteers to come in and do. This requires expertise. It requires a design architecturally approved that will support the historic features in the building and also keep it in line with what's expected of a historic property. The building, if it's done properly, can be as beautiful as the Sanger in New Orleans is, which is, anybody who's been there knows that it takes your breath away when you go in. We need this in Biloxi. We don't need volunteers doing the building or the repairing of the Sanger. We need experts who know what they're doing. You only want to pay once. As my father used to say, Leo Quapo, who many of you knew, you either do it right the first time or you're going to pay double to do it over the second time. So that's all I wanted to say, because this is in my field, and I did think it was important to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to my right? Ms. Chambers? Look at you next.
Just work? Okay.
Yes.
My name is Matthew Marver. I'm a longtime Coast native. And I just wanted to say a quick story about what the Sanger means to me. When I was young, my mom put me in 2 shows, Evita and Oliver. And I hated it, but I loved it at the same time. I loved the aura of the theater. I loved the smell of it. I loved how everybody comes together and puts on something together, and they all take that bow, and we all did it as one. I love that. I went to boarding school. I played football. I wrestled, stayed away from theater for a while. I came back. The very first show I did as an adult was Oliver again, and I played Mr. Bumble. And in that show were 2 people from the 2 previous shows that I had played, that I was in as a kid. So Mr. Anthony Kalberg, and also, who's not here, Miss Therese Gargiulo Evans. So for me, the Sanger brought us back together as friends. And I will cherish it, and I sure as heck hope that we can get it done right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone to my right? Anyone else to my right? Ms. Jane?
I'm Jane Chamber. I'm the manager for the local history and genealogy department at the Biloxi Library, which is right down the street. Of course, we had a hand in trying to find a little bit of the history of Biloxi. The Sanger itself is full of memories and full of events, and all the things that's happened, it's not in a book. You can't just go to a book that's already written about it. We find memories of the Sanger by asking people who have been here, who have stayed here, who have visited here, people who were in the military that came here. All over the world, the Sanger has been visited by several people. But the other place to look for things about the Sanger is the Daily Herald, Sun Herald. So if you flip through the pages of the newspaper from 1929 all the way to almost the present, you will find amazing things that happen there. So it's so important. We really need to write a really big, thick book about it, but we can't. So I don't know if we've mentioned the very beginning of the opening of the Sanger was a movie called Interference. It was 84 minutes long. It was the first talking picture of its time. It was 10 reels of film, so you can imagine all the things that had to be done just to people to sit and listen to the whole movie in one big sitting. So what I'd really like to see is if we can open the Sanger, we would see that very same movie. There's got to be a copy somewhere. We would see the Interference movie. It's a murder mystery. It's got to be a good story. And we would have popcorn, and we would have nickel pickles, and we would bring bottle caps for admission, just like we did years ago. Years ago, you'd have 6 bottle caps from either RC or Pepsi, but this time it would be Barks Root Beer. So we're planning a good event, and we're looking forward to whatever y'all can do to help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Yes, ma'am.
I am Beverly Williams,
And Gwen was married to my brother, Chucky. Oh, push.
Yeah, just grab it.
Got it.
It's not a rocking chair, Bev, you gotta get up.
Take advantage of all these things. I used to go to the Sanger to see movies, and they would have World War II news, and I thought, I wish that would get off so we could get the cartoons, or whatever. And my grandfather was a captain of the sailing schooners before they had power. But by the time I came along, they had motorized boats. But little did I realize that Miss Joachim, Joachim, when I was working for Dr. Atkins, I think, said, I perform at the Sanger. And I said, what? She said, come. And I said, and they had a piano with an accompanist and all this stuff. And I said, I'm out of here. And she said, no, you're not. So I get up and I said, fish gotta swim, birds gotta fly. And I'm just about to die. I was in Showboat, got to dance on the Sanger Theater. I was in My Fair Lady with Karen Abernathy. I was in Dr. Lawrence Oden's performance of Elegy in Gray. I was in the chorus, and they had a great big black screen way up high, and the people that was singing had to go to the very edge, and I being a soprano, I thought, if I fall down, it's going to be curtains for me. However, a little young person from Biloxi that's now only 39 going on 82, I will never forget the opportunity that I had to perform on the Sanger Theater. That will be forever in my memories, and I think my sons, 4 sons, I think would remember me performing on the Sanger Theater. And I thank Biloxi for having preserved things that are special, and that is a special thing. And so I thank you, and God bless you, and maybe you be led to do the right thing for Biloxi.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Charlene Deaton. I live in Ward 4. I'd like to first say that I understand that you have a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens, but you also have another responsibility. There are certain things that can't take care of themselves. In a building like that, she's waiting on y'all. We have to be good stewards of our historical structure. We're the ones that can do it. And you're talking about these people back here. I'm lucky enough to know a lot of them. And they are experts at fundraising. They're involved in community theater. And to do community theater, you have to do it on a shoestring. And like Rafe said, we're ready. Just give us some guidance. Get the outside of that building done. And let us get in there and work. Not as hands-on workers, but fundraisers to make this happen. We can do it, but you got to help us. And please, be good stewards of history. Don't go down as somebody that tore down the Sanger or let her fall down. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Did I miss anyone? In the back? Mr. Griffin? Mr. Felcher?
Just want to take a minute to speak to y'all y'all, not as a beautification commissioner, but as the chair of the Architectural and Historical Commission. You know, when you go to a show over at Mobile, we went to see Robert playing at the Sanger over there. It's memorable. Went to see Jersey Boys at the Pensacola Sanger. It's memorable. So when you ask about the return on investment, which is a valid point, and I want to say I appreciate Nathan, Robert, your points about being good fiduciaries of our taxpayer money. That's an important point. But you can't replace history. There's no price on it. It's priceless. The Sanger's priceless. And I just want to say from the moment that Mayor O'Keefe took and signed that contract and they took that building over, Biloxi became a fiduciary of the Sanger Theater. You own that, and we have to take care of it. In a pragmatic way, yes, but we have to do it. So I just want to encourage y'all, let's look at every way we can to preserve this building. I'll help any way I can. I know the people behind me will too. Let's save part of Biloxi.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
My name is Michael Griffin. Not here to talk about Sanger. I know you guys didn't inherit the contract from hell as it relates to East Biloxi road work. And I'm here to say that it hadn't gotten any better. I don't even think we're cleaning the streets now. It's like a war zone out there. There's numerous safety hazards. And I know I've talked to you, Councilman Gines, about it, and I've talked to some of the city officials about it. And you did come out, and you looked at it, and this is in reference to the oak tree in front of my property. Oscar Render was cutting the roots on the oak tree in front of my house, and I went out and asked him, did they have permit to do that? And he said he got permission from his boss, and he was going to call him. Well, he called him, and it, long story short, the city came out, the engineers and others, the Ordinance, and he said he had permission to continue. So he continued to cut the roots on this oak tree. When I asked what would happen to the oak tree, this was to the Ordinance when he was out there, and he said he wasn't sure if it would live or not. He said one thing he did know is that it wasn't good for the tree. So I think we ordered one of the guys to come out with a machine to grind the roots down. That was supposed to help. Well, initially, the sidewalk was there with the oak tree there. And all of a sudden, we had to cut the roots in order to get the sidewalk in. That was back in, late March. That hole is still there in the sidewalk. There's no safety barriers there. Haven't heard anything. When I initially questioned cutting of the roots for the oak tree to put in the sidewalk, short answer was it was in the city's easement. So I guess that meant I don't have anything to do with that. So when I asked the question, well, that means that the city is liable if it dies and the limbs fall. I didn't hear any more about it. I'm just wondering who's doing inspection for the work and who's paying these guys when they say they completed a job or when they're working a job and then they move off to another area. It's been a couple of months and still there. There are other areas that should be addressed. Right next door to me, there's a single parent there, mother, 4 kids. They put a fence up. I don't know who put the fence up, but they didn't put the keeper for the drop rod that holds the gate locked.
Mr. Griffin, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Time's up.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll be sending you an email with all the pictures and everything, because apparently you don't know about it, and I would appreciate any help that you give me on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Did I miss anyone else? Okay, well, that concludes citizen comments. We're going to move on.
I'd like to say something.
Okay. That concludes citizen
to talk-
comments, and I'm going to let George have a comment before we move into our policy agenda.
Yeah, I talked to the people addressing things to me. It's great. Y'all need to sit together, get with the nonprofit, the Main Street organization, which is run through the mayor's office. We have firsthand everything that's going on. Those groups need to get together. You got to have the nonprofit to create all the money, the grants. That's a good thing. Y'all have that fire in your body to do the right thing and keep it going. Right. Work with Main Street through the mayor's office. So that's what y'all need to do, put all that together. One organization fighting for the same purpose. Now, another thing about the CBs, first thing with the CBs, you have to ask them if they even want to do it. But they're construction people. They build every day. I have no fear in them taking care of the walls and the roof. That's all I was saying about that. They can put the bricks together. They can fix the roof. They can fix all these things. First of all, you got to find if they're willing to do it, even trust that building. So that was the answer to the mayor for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Okay, we're going to move on to the policy agenda. 4A, Lucy.
Ordinance to amend Section 1522 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to city holidays.
Could you do a timeout for about 5 minutes?
Okay, yeah, just hold on for a second. Yeah. Let's take a few minutes. We'll take a quick 5-minute break. 5-minute break.
Make a motion on 4A as we have in the past. How's that gonna?
Well, the last time we came up, it was tabled.
Nobody made a motion. If I remember correctly.
Maybe. I'll make a motion this time to get it out there for a first reading. I don't know if we'll get a second.
Thank you. That was kind of this one we did, that they had paint ordinance a couple of years ago. The other one we did real quick on the right side. It's cool, and they can keep them as long as everyone agrees to it. So when you gonna have your ribbon cutting? Okay, okay. That's cool. No, everybody just kind of left. I mean, they didn't say what was there.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, where's our council members at? We got enough to start? All right, Robert, we're waiting on you. Tell Robert, come on. Who we missing? Robert and Glavin? And Kenny? Okay, where did we leave off at? Okay, policy agenda, ordinance A, Lucy, and you read it already. All right, I need, this is the first reading. I need a motion on it.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Dr. Tisdale. Any second? Any second? Okay, it dies for lack of a motion. Ordinance B, Lucy.
Ordinance to amend section 23-4 regarding parking in small craft harbor parking lots.
Okay, this is also first reading. I need a motion on it.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Tisdale. Need a second? This is first reading.
We can't hear you.
Okay, well, it's a motion on the table. I need it moved in second.
I want to find out why it's written the way it's written. You can't do this.
So if I second it, we'll just move it and we'll discuss it next week.
We're
Or the
supposed to
next
discuss it next week, and
Okay,
if you want to
I'll
make a comment, I'll let him make a comment.
Okay, I'll second it and he can comment.
Okay. Moved by Dr. Tisdale, second by Mr. Barrett. Okay, you want to make a quick comment on it?
I can't hear you.
I said, I think this thing needs to be pulled off and rewritten, because you cannot force anybody. What you have written here, you can't do it. So I don't know what you need to do, or what are you trying to do here? I know this thing on the Kovacevic part, I can see that. The rest of this small craft harbor, those are public parts. You can't do any of that.
No, we're not dealing with the small craft harbor. That already exists. That statute, that ordinance.
You have it in here. And then you got Biloxi, you got the Biloxi scratched out of small craft harbor for some reason, I don't know. That's what I said, the way it's written here, that don't make any sense to me.
All right, that
According to
scratch
this thing
out.
on that screen right here, see? It's scratched
Right.
out.
Well, that scratch out is a erroneous scratch out. That's why we have first readings to correct that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to discuss it because it's first reading. Okay, I'm going to move on to resolutions. C, Ms. Lucy.
Resolution authorizing and implementing extension of cost of living increases to beneficiaries of the retirement fund.
I'll make
for-
that motion.
Moved by Dr. Tisdale, second by Mr. Lawrence. Any questions on it?
My only question is, if I understand this correctly, that we're actually reducing the millage?
That's correct.
A little bit on this, as the number of, I guess, recipients dwindles over the year through,
Recipients totals 94, it was 101 a year ago.
right.
And as a result, we looked at this a year ago and chose not to do it because it was going to have to raise the millage in order to do it. As the population shrinks, the millage required to provide the total goes down. And now, in order to give this 94 people their cost of living allowance, these are people that retired many, many years ago, 94 of them left. In order to do that, we actually are going to shrink our millage.
Right, by about how much, roughly?
0.09.
By
Around 9 mils.
.09, so that's
So right now-
not quite a tenth of a mil, about $40,000. Okay, that's good. I'm good with it. Thank you, Mike.
Going in the right direction, probably going to continue to be able to do that.
New popcorn machines. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on resolution C? Okay, I'm gonna call for the question. All in favor? Okay, 7-0, motion carries. I need a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Tisdale. Need a second? Second by Mr. Glavin. I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Barrett.
I have no questions. I would just like to note that I will be recusing myself from item O.
Item O. Okay, Mr. Glavin.
I'd just like to note I'll be recusing myself from E, item E. And item O, do we have the actual study, a copy of it that's on item O? That's feasibility study, is that what that is, item O on the consent?
There was
feasibility
still a
analysis.
typo or two, so it's being revised again to correct a few typos. But I think the resolution extends it to the end of this month, so we should have it, I think, by next week.
All right. I have no other.
I have a question on
Wait.
same one you were talking about. It expired in March, so do we actually have a contract with them? They're supposed to give us a report in March, end of March, and they didn't do it. Now you extend it to June. They never gave us a fee. I guess my question to you, Peter, then it should have been brought to the 2-3 months ago. If it was, you wanted an extension, it ended in March, you should have brought in, well, I'm just saying, there was no report. So the council that should have been brought to the council a few months ago, and then we could have voted on it then.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
It's extended, and this amendment would correct any perceived error.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Tisdale.
Nothing.
Okay, Mr. Deming. Mr. Newman. Mr. Lawrence.
That was the one I was
That was the
next
one?
about, so we
Okay.
did that one.
And I also have nothing. Okay, I'm gonna call for the question. All in favor? Okay, 7-0. Mr. Barrett recuse himself.
Going over.
5L was
Was
removed.
removed, but did y'all want to state for how long? It wasn't stated in.
Subject to call?
Okay, subject to call, okay.
Table subject to call.
Okay, and we got 7-0 with Mr. Barrett recusing himself from O and Mr. Glavin recusing himself from E.
From which one?
E.
E.
E, as an echo. Okay. Okay, code enforcement, Mr. Creel.
Item A on the agenda, Greenwich LLC, 281 Stennis Drive. That case has been resolved.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Creel. Okay, I need a motion on the routine agenda. Moved by Dr. Tisdale,
Second.
second by Mr. Glavin. Any questions on the routine agenda, Mr. Lawrence?
Anybody stay here to tell us about some money? Everybody left? Do we have any good news?
700 grand.
Is that what you're talking about last week? 730, you received that money? 730? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? All in favor? 7-0, motion carried. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lawrence, second by Dr. Tisdale. Any questions? All in favor? This is it.